And we are unmuted and we're live. All right. What's up, everyone? Thank you guys so
Hello.
much for joining us today. It's kind of a special episode of the Joy of Pixels podcast. I'm joined, as always, with my buddy Squash. Squash, how you doing?
Hey. I'm
And-
not too bad, just a bit tired.
Awesome. Yeah, you've had a long week, I feel like, right?
It's been a pretty long week.
Some devastating news, too.
yeah, very devastating.
I guess I know what I think I know what that is.
And that voice you hear, I'm very excited to welcome in RealityOh.
Hello.
Reality, it's so nice to finally talk to you and see you and have you on.
I'm an actual person.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time that me and Al even speak.
Yeah.
We've been hanging out in chat for so long, but we never actually spoke.
Yeah,
by
you've been
voice.
here with us a very long time, and I'm really excited that we can finally work this out to get together.
Mm-hmm. Very exciting.
So for anybody that doesn't know, Reality is a developer and a gamer and working on a really cool puzzle game called Crew 167, The Grand Block Odyssey. And yeah, it's a really cool little puzzle game that I played. How long ago was it? A month or two ago?
It was in October, so it's been 3 months.
Has it been 3 months already? Wow.
Damn.
So
Time
because
flies.
we were the very first person to play the game in public.
I think that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
It's pretty
Streamer privileges.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Reality, anything else to say that we should know about you?
Let's see. I'm a game developer, as you said, and Crew 167 is my first game, so definitely it was a very interesting project to kind of learn how to make games. I'm not from the gaming industry, so I had to learn a lot of things, and I'm sure we'll discuss the actual development a lot more as we go along. I am living in Montreal, which is, as far as I know, one of the best places to make video games in the world. We're actually somehow in some charts, depending on what metric you look at, we're like top 5 in the cities, top 5 cities in the world where we make games. We have a bunch of indie game devs that live here that help each other out here. So I'm living in a very great ecosystem. But yeah, that kind of gives you an idea where I'm from. There's a lot of snow outside my window right now, so this is what I live with every single year.
Do you like the snow? Do you like cold weather? Or are you tired of it?
I'm pretty neutral about it because I spend most of my time inside anyway. So
Yeah.
whether it's cold or not, it's not really a problem. I think I prefer cold to hot to warm. So because you can always put more heat, but
Exactly.
That's
You can
exactly
always
the
put
way I
more
think
clothes
too.
on,
Yep.
but you can only take so many off, right?
yeah, exactly. And AC is not everywhere, even though we do have AC in my house, so it's not that much of a problem. But it's still, I think overall I prefer winter.
Yeah.
I'd say the same.
Same for me. What's up, French Toast? So yeah, let's we got a ton of stuff to talk about. So let's just jump in. Reality, I want to talk about all these games that you played last year, and of course about your game. But I think we'll just, for right now, we'll just stick to just the games that we've been playing recently. So anybody want to throw something in? What you guys have been playing recently?
I mean, I played some Beat Saber last night. That was interesting. My VR, I haven't really used it in a couple months, like over Christmas and that. I've been busy, but I finally set it back up again last night. Jumped on Beat Saber. I'd been stuck on this level for a while. You have to move your hands like within this one song 650 meters while playing along to the beats. And so every second, like every chance I got, I was just flailing my arms about trying to get the meters up, and it wore me out like nothing else. So that was interesting.
I don't know
but yeah,
what's more fun, playing Beat Saber or watching someone play Beat Saber.
yeah.
I've never played it myself.
Do you have VR? Reality?
I don't have VR.
Are you interested in it at all?
Not enough to actually buy it.
Yeah.
I
It's still a
tried it
really
once at
big
a
investment.
convention. Yeah, and I don't feel like I have enough room to
Mhm.
actually benefit from it. So
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely fair.
I'm still waiting for it to get more popular, but I've never really been into it. I think I didn't see much advantage actually playing with it. So
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like we're still waiting for those really big games to
Half-Life.
come out.
hmm
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely well, it's been sold out. The index has been sold out for a while
Yeah.
now, ever since the announcement.
Oh man,
And
I didn't know that.
yeah, did you not hear about that in Squash?
I did not.
Yeah, it sold out really quickly. And the Valve put out a statement saying that they're working very hard to meet the demands of the index now. So I think that's good in a way, except it kind of makes me nervous that people are spending $1,000 and they're selling out
For a
that
game that's not
quickly.
even released.
Yeah. But hey, you get the game for free.
Yeah, it's true actually.
That's a nice
um,
bonus.
yeah. So let's see. Reality, you want to throw out a game that you've been playing?
Yeah, I did put a lot more games because since I'm not here every week, I figured maybe we can extend it a bit longer. And I
Hmm.
feel like I haven't been playing too many things lately, but I think the main game that I'm playing right now is Final Fantasy 14
Okay.
because I usually play
Awesome.
with my wife. So she's the reason that I started playing that game. So whenever I have time for gaming, we just boot it up together and do those main quests to story together. So it's very
Um,
I think it's very interesting. Played a lot of MMOs. I did not expect it to be that good, but I'm actually enjoying it quite a lot. I think they did a
Hmm.
lot of very nice things. The story gets very interesting as well for an MMO, uh, which is also very interesting. Normally, you would see like a bit of dialogue here and there, but this one has like full-fledged cutscenes that just it plays like a single-player game mostly.
I just
Yeah,
wish
it
they were
really
voice
does.
acted.
It is voice acted.
Some
Yeah.
of them are voice acted.
Yeah, most not every cutscenes are, but like the major ones normally have voice actor.
I feel
Hmm.
like it's just I don't know. When I first tried to play that game, maybe something was wrong with my game, but like all of the early cutscenes, like the initial cutscenes, were not voice acted.
The Yeah, so the early cutscenes don't really have it, and they actually changed voice actors in in the first expansion. So it seems like they did not put too much effort on that sense in the first game, but they really
Hmm.
ramped it up for the later expansions.
I
Yeah, that's
guess
what I've heard.
for me, it's just like as a newcomer to a game, it just seems like you would want to make a good impression. And when you just don't even have any, like you have this cutscene happening, and there's like music and everything, and
Hmm.
their mouths are moving, but then the text just comes up. It just was kind of jarring. And I don't know. It seems like as big as Square Enix is, they would just throw some money towards some voice actors and voice
Mhm.
act the first of that
Yeah,
game.
I feel like they could go back and revoice it, but I think voice actors just start like when you're like level 40, which is still like there's a few random cutscenes before level 40 that somehow have voice acting, but
Hmm.
it's
Mhm.
kind of random. But then after that, it just picks up. And I almost want to say that the beginning of the game is kind of a drag. I feel like the quests are not that interesting. The story is progressing so slowly.
Yeah.
But once you got like out of the base game, then it starts to really get interesting. And I want to say I had like some very nice moments in them. Like the more I play, the more I love the game. So far, it's a really good investment for me.
That's what everyone tells me, and I
Yeah.
hate it because I want to get into it so bad, but I don't
Mhm.
know. It's like you say, the first part is really a drag, and it's just really slow, and I don't know. I just can't get into it. But Squash is getting into it, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I put in like 15 hours over last weekend, so like a week ago now.
Okay.
I'm only like level 26, 27, so I'm
Okay.
still kind of early in the game.
Yeah.
But even for what people have been saying about the early game, I'm still kind of enjoying it. So if it's meant to get better, then I definitely feel like I could
It
get
does
into it
get
pretty well.
better.
Yeah. Um, Having played, because I played WoW Classic when that came out. Never been into WoW. I kind of just jumped on the hype train of Classic and tried that out. And having
Hmm.
experience from that has definitely helped in FF14. Like I'm playing a gladiator, um,
Hmm.
so going into dungeons and stuff in the early game and actually knowing kind of my purpose has been super handy. and I haven't been getting stuck with bad teammates either because the matchmaking's not too bad for the dungeons. So
Hmm.
yeah, I've had a pretty good experience so far. I definitely need to play more, but as I'm on the starter edition, I can't go above level 35,
Oh,
I
I
think
see.
it is. Um, but I've said to myself that if I get to level 35, I'll buy the complete edition with all the DLCs and everything and just go at it.
What level are you at right now?
I'm like high 20s, I think. Mid to
Hmm.
high 20s.
I think that's really cool though that they let you play now up to level 35. I mean, that's a good
Hmm.
amount of content,
Mhm.
even if it is not that great content.
Yeah, I feel like my wife was like dragging me along because I was getting bored, but she was like, no, like she had played a bit further down than me, so she was convincing me that it was going to get better, and I trust her. I trust
Yeah.
her a lot, so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do what you say, and we kept playing, and the it's night and day the difference between both. So I'm kind of glad I went through the grind, but
Mhm.
at the same time, the way that the story evolves, it kind of makes sense that it is a drag at the beginning. So I don't
Okay.
know if it was done on purpose, but it really feels like it contributes to the story and makes you feel more like you have a greater role because you've done the smaller roles. It's as if like
Mhm.
you were starting like at a new job and you do all of the basic admin tasks like photocopying and like creating copies, getting coffee for people, which sounds very boring, but at the end, like you become somebody that has a bit more power in the company. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the experience I got while playing it.
Yeah. That definitely makes sense. I just don't think I can bring myself to make coffee for 3 months before,
For 40,
I
40 levels.
yeah.
So so one thing we did, and I think it was a good choice, when I started, like the first time I played, I was on the trial as well, and we were on a different server, uh, and I didn't quite get into it. I didn't have that much time, but my wife kept playing it, and she got to level 50, started to enjoy the next chapter, which is why she was hooked on the game. But then she felt like changing server, and what we found is there was a server that had like very low population, so all the XP we get is basically 200%, so we level up twice as fast. And I felt like at that pace it was much more enjoyable than
Mhm.
Mhm.
those very,
Yeah.
very slow grind.
It's kind of like
So
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I got a free boost or something like that for doing the stream test, and I feel like
mhm.
I enjoyed that quite a bit more because I was leveling up, a lot faster than normal people were, and it wasn't as grindy as people were talking about. Although
Yeah.
I think they've kind of
Mhm.
fixed that now. But yeah, I love hearing about Final Fantasy 14, and I'm glad that it's doing well. I just don't know if I could ever get into it.
Yeah, I think you kind of have a problem with MMOs in general.
Yeah,
You struggle to get into a
Mhm.
lot of MMOs
yeah,
and
I've
that types of
tried.
stuff.
I mean,
So,
I've definitely tried. I've
Mhm.
tried World of Warcraft twice. Tried Final
mhm.
Fantasy 14. I think 3 times now. I've tried Elder Scrolls Online. I don't know, 2 or 3 times. I think I
Mhm.
probably could get into Elder Scrolls if I really wanted to, because I do like Elder Scrolls and the universe and the lore quite a bit. But I don't
Mhm.
know. There's just something about MMOs that just kind of turned me off.
But it's its own genre. Like
Mm,
they
Yeah.
have so much content. It's ridiculous, and I think it feels like you will never get through it in a way. So maybe
yeah.
that's why you're not that interested.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that might be it for me. Like I generally play a game for the story, like that's the most important part for me. And so I want to see how it ends. And with these MMOs it's like, well, there's never really an end. You just keep playing and just keep grinding and just keep doing
Hmm.
raids and dungeons and that kind of stuff. So that could be part of it. Let's see. Moving on. Or is there anything else you guys want to talk about with Final Fantasy 14?
I'm definitely going to be playing more. I'm excited to play more.
Yeah,
Do
same
you
thing for
think
me.
do you think they will just like I guess how long do you think they will keep supporting 14? You think they'll just keep coming out with an expansion every year?
It feels like the
Um,
popularity of Final Fantasy 14 is just growing up, so
It
they'll
really does.
yeah.
keep adding. I think I even heard rumors that they might be doing a TV series about it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think I heard that too.
Yeah, and it was by the producers of the Witcher TV series. That's what I heard.
Oh, interesting.
But don't quote me on that. I'm not an expert.
You heard it here, folks.
It's official.
Yep.
Oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, it seems like it's doing really well, so good job for them. And I'm glad people are enjoying it. Let's see. What else? You guys want to talk about Dishonored 2 a little bit?
For sure.
Can do.
Squash, you haven't been playing this, but have you played Dishonored 2?
Yeah. I've played Dishonored 1, 2, and Death of the Outsider.
I still haven't played Death of the Outsider. Yeah, I don't really know why I started playing this again. I think I was just playing so many games like The Witcher and just these like huge open world RPGs, and I just wanted something a little bit more self-contained and something
a bit more focused.
Yeah, and man, Dishonored 2 is so good. Like I forgot
It's
how
really
good it is,
Mm-hmm.
and just how incredible the level design is. It's just a very dense world, and I think it's something to be said. It seems like so many games are going open world these days, but having a game like Dishonored where you have these really handcrafted levels and there's just so much in them and so much to them, I really, really am enjoying that game.
It's yeah, I recently started playing it again too. So I guess it was an interesting timing that I
Yeah.
saw that you were playing it and I was playing it, and I think we're exactly in the same level you were playing yesterday, which is the 4th level.
Okay. The
It's
Clockwork
just like
Mansion.
yeah, Clockwork Mansion. It's like every single room in that game has a purpose. They have a reason. They have a story behind it, and everything interconnects. So I think when you play the first time, you might not notice just how rich it is, but the more you replay it, the more you see how every single elements are connected, and there's references to the first game. And if you're really good at remembering name, which I am not, there's a lot of things that you can see that was in the first game that has an impact in the second game. And there's also like a lot of details. If you do certain missions in a specific way, like either low chaos or high chaos, it will impact how the next level will be. So this is also the type of thing that you would not notice the first time you play it.
Are you playing as Corvo or Emily?
This time I'm playing as Emily because I was playing as Corvo the first time.
Okay, that's interesting because I played as Emily the first time, and so I'm playing as Corvo this time.
Yeah, I was the same.
And it's been so long since I played it, and I played a bit of Death of the Outsider, so I can't remember. Are the powers different for Emily and Corvo, or are they the same?
They're different, slightly different.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Because
I mean,
instead
there's
of
some of them are like exactly the same. Like Dark Vision, I think they both have it, but I'm not sure if the upgrades are exactly the same. But definitely the Blink is a different one.
That's what I was going to say. Instead of Blink, you have like it's like I don't know, like an arc arrow or something like that. That kind of
Like a rope.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's cool how they have little differences. I don't think there's, or I haven't really noticed a huge difference in the gameplay. But I think it's cool to have the option to play as either one.
Mm-hmm.
I know Emily has like some very overpowered skills. Like she has Domino that allows you to do the same action on 4 different people at the same time. So you can pretty much take out a full room using like a sleep dart, and they will not notice that you attack them. So kind of overpowered when you figure that out.
Do you have the time stop ability with Emily?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I just upgraded that, so it's pretty cool that you can fully stop time, and it's for quite a while too.
Yeah. So you think this is kind of overpowered in its own way too, right?
Yeah.
In a different way.
Are you going low chaos or high chaos?
So right now I decided to do the no, like low chaos, no kills, no detection. So pretty much playing the whole game ghost, and also aiming to get, I think it's 60% of the loot.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm doing like a bunch of them at the same time because I like challenges, and this is a way to really put a lot of limitation on the way that I can play the game. But I do use F5 and F9 a lot.
Oh man, I miss the good old days of spamming F5 and F9 all the time. Um, let's see. I'm trying to think. I don't think I played Dishonored 1 when it first came out. I think it took me a little while to get to it. But when I played that, it was really kind of I don't know, an eye-opening experience of games like that, because I hadn't played a lot of games like that. And Dishonored 2, I think, is just unbelievably good. The first one is great, but I think the second one is just that much better. Do you guys think we'll get a Dishonored 3?
That's a good question. I can't remember how Dishonored 2 ended, so I don't know how possible it is. But I mean, the franchise is definitely popular.
Yeah, there were a lot of reports that said that Dishonored 2 didn't sell quite as well as they were hoping. So it makes me a little nervous. But that world is just so interesting. The lore is so interesting. I really, really would love to get another Dishonored.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I don't think it impacts how Dishonored 2 finished, because if I remember correctly, Dishonored 2 starts with like you having done something specific in Dishonored 1, so it's like kind of its own alternate reality.
That's true.
So they could just figure out this is the default ending that Dishonored 2 is, and then we can keep going with a Dishonored 3. But
the story
I'm
is
not sure they can reuse Corvo again.
Yeah.
As a character.
The story is, I don't know, a little loose to me, the way it starts out. Like where Emily is the priestess, or not the priestess, the empress, or whatever like that. And then her aunt just shows up and she's like, I'm the queen, and just takes over, and like everybody just kind of goes along with it. But yeah, I don't know. The story is interesting, but I think the lore is far more interesting in that game.
Yeah, I played it more for the gameplay than the story. Like I kind of followed loosely along with the story. I never really got into the lore much, even though I've heard it's pretty decent. But Dishonored is one of those games I kind of play through because I want to kill people in cool ways.
Did you, when you played it, Squash, did you play like killing everyone, or just stealthing, or how did you play it?
I mean, with those kind of games, I always try and start off playing stealthy, and then it just devolves into chaos, and I end up killing everyone. So yeah, I kind of just killed everyone as I played.
Did you, like, each time you went into a new level, did you try and play it stealthy, or did you just get to a point where you were just like, I'm just going to kill everybody?
I think I always tried to play it stealthy when I could, but there were definitely times when I just wasn't good enough at being stealthy.
Yeah.
And I just had to try and kill everyone somehow.
Do you feel like utilizing quick save and quick load is cheating, or like, I don't know, how do you feel about that from both of you guys?
I mean, I think it depends on the game. Like if you're doing that in a game like XCOM, I think it's okay because that game can be like unfairly punishing. I know that's kind of by design sometimes, but it can just get to the point where you need to reload because it would just be too much of a hit to lose that squad or whatever.
Iron
and
Man
again,
all the way on XCOM.
Yeah. In games like Dishonored, I don't kind of reload. I kind of just go with the flow.
Yeah.
But I can see why some people would reload, especially if they're going for kind of no death runs or no kill runs and stuff like that.
What about you, Reality?
I mean, I'm not a speedrunner, so if I can use F5, F9 to better enjoy the game and get the outcome I want without having to restart from the beginning, then sure, let's do it. I don't think it breaks the game. Instead, I just see it as like every room is its own little challenge, its own little puzzle. You try to figure out how to beat it, and once you're done, then you keep going to the next one.
I think Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say there's definitely some games where I try to, let's say, replay it
Hmm.
without using saves. One example was, I think, Ori and the Blind Forest. I was definitely
Hmm.
attempting to do a no death run in that game,
Oh
but
goodness.
usually I don't try too hard, I guess.
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of just trying to find a balance because like in a game in like Dishonored, you could pretty easily go through a level and do everything perfectly just by, spamming F5 and just trying to get past a guard or something like that. And
Hmm.
every time you mess up, you just hit F9 really quick. But to me, it gets to a point to where that's not really that fun. Like if I'm just constantly reloading.
Mm.
Um, so I try not to do that too much, but I definitely am fine with, like, especially if I go to a new area and like I'm trying to find a bone charm or something like that. I'll quick save before that and maybe run out and maybe run into some guards or something like that I didn't know
Hmm.
were there, and then they kill me or they start to kill me and I'll just reload really quick. But if it gets to the point to where I'm just like, you know, every corner I go around, I'm saving right before I go around that corner, then I don't know. It just kind of breaks the immersion to me a little bit, just knowing that I can just reload every single time.
I think the first time I played without abusing quick saves, quick load, because I got like the high chaos ending. So I'm assuming I didn't do everything perfectly. I
Yeah,
don't quite remember how I played it, but I'm assuming I just went with it and tried to do one, like trying to be stealthy. But that if that fails, then try to survive, and if that
yeah.
fails, then let's reload. But
I like doing that a lot. Yeah, I try to be stealthy, but if I get discovered, I'll try to get away. But I mean, if I have to kill someone, sorry, that's just the way it has to be. um,
yeah.
I think there's something to be said too for a game like, I don't know, Bioshock Infinite comes to mind, that did a really good job at. I don't even know if you could quick save and quick load in that game, but they just made death like not really that big of a deal. Like if you died, you just instantly reloaded like right at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and kind of the same thing with like the Souls games. I mean, death is a huge part in the Souls games. And
Yeah.
obviously, if you could just quick save and quick load in a Souls game, I feel like it would almost break the point of those types of games, which is learning from your deaths.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion, like how much quick saving and quick loading you use. But I guess it just kind of depends on the game itself and just how you want to play the game.
I think a stealthy game you have to have
Yeah,
that mechanic, because otherwise, yeah, it gets very difficult to not be detected at all. So whenever you're doing that, you need
right,
to
right.
have some sort of
Hmm.
like parachute to help you. While as when you're playing, let's say, I haven't played Bioshock Infinite myself, but like say Doom as an example,
Hmm.
uh, like you will go into a room, kill a bunch of demons, and come out of it either by winning or by dying, and then you restart again. You don't really need to quick save; the game does it for you by
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
checkpoints before every battle.
Let's see. What else have we been playing? How's Monster Hunter World going, Squash?
Um, Not too bad. It's actually getting better and better the more I play. It's way, way bigger than I thought it would be. It's like seriously on the scale of the base game. I'm not at the end game yet. I'm still playing through the campaign. I think I've put like 25, 30 hours into the DLC so far.
Hmm.
Um, and the campaign by itself is like 35, 40. So I've got a long way to go. Um, and even once I do reach the end of the campaign, apparently the end game opens up a ton more stuff, like a new area, more loot to grind, even new monsters eventually, and you're always increasing your master rank in Iceborne, which is like the new rank they've introduced, similar to G rank in like the old handheld Monster Hunter games, um, but it's obviously now on the Monster Hunter World, which is the first home console Monster Hunter game. Um, but yeah, Iceborne, I'm really glad I got into it honestly. I was skeptical for a long time of whether I would play it, but I kind of started up the base game one day a few weeks before Iceborne came out, and I figured I kind of want to get into a game like this right now. So Iceborne came along at a pretty good time, I think.
Cool. I
Yeah.
think it's fun to play that game. I don't know why, but I always like playing games if it takes place in like a cold environment. I just like playing that during the winter.
Hmm. Yeah, I
um,
mean, I can understand that.
it's like Frostpunk. I didn't. That game came out in like, I don't know, spring or something like that, and I intentionally waited to play it until it got cold.
Is it for the immersion? Like your body feels cold, so it feels like you're even more into the game?
I think so. Maybe I don't know. There's just something about like it being cold outside, and it doesn't really snow here. I wish it would snow. That would be my dream, to play Frostpunk while it's like a blizzard outside.
Yeah, we don't
um
get snow too often over here.
yeah, I love snow, but at the same time I think I would probably hate it. Or I don't know, hate is a strong word, but I would get very tired of it if I had to deal with it all the time. I have lived in areas where it snows quite a bit, and it can get annoying.
Hmm.
It is
Um,
definitely a lifestyle.
yeah. Let's see. Anybody else been playing any games recently? I played a bit of Subnautica. Started up a new game of that, and I checked out the early access, Below Zero. Um,
Yeah.
just to try it out. I wanted to try it out because they said that, I don't know, this makes me kind of nervous, but they said that they lost their lead writer, and
Yeah.
they are basically like rewriting the story now, which kind of makes me nervous. Um, so they said that this last update would be like the last time that you'll get to play the current story that it is before they change it. So I kind of wanted to check it out, but I still think I'm just going to wait on that game because it just seems too buggy right now. And then Squash, we played a little tiny bit of Escape from Tarkov. We tried to play a little
Yeah.
bit.
It
I
was
still
very
don't know
brief.
about that game. I want to get into it so bad, but I just feel like it's going to be too hardcore for me. Like we played the game for like, I don't know, 45 minutes, but we actually only spent like 3 minutes in the actual game because we
That's
just got
accurate.
shot pretty much as soon as you got in. I wish that there was just, I wish that game was just quicker to like get into a game,
Hmm.
because I really do like the hardcore simulation type military sim that it is, but it's very very intense.
Yeah, it's definitely an acquired taste, I think. And like you say, the game, its biggest problem is the servers. It's all kind of out of our hands. I guess most things with the game is out of our hands, but um, yeah, getting into games quickly is a pretty important thing in Tarkov, seeing as you die an awful lot of the time. Um, so if they improve on that and things are snappier and the servers aren't so slow and kind of don't get as overloaded as easily, I think the game will really like see big improvements.
I also really wish that there was just a pure offline mode with that game.
That would be nice.
Yeah, and I mean, we were talking a little bit about this while we were playing, but I would love to have just like a separate mode that you leveled up and all of that stuff, and like all of your levels wouldn't carry over to the online mode, so they wouldn't have to worry about balancing it or anything like that. But I
Hmm.
I don't know. I just get too nervous when I'm playing against someone else because I'm not very good, and I don't really know what I'm doing in that game either, which is a huge part. Like you really need to learn the maps and learn where everything is, and
Yeah,
it's quite a bit to it. But I'm still interested to see how that game evolves and where it goes.
same here.
All right. I think let's talk a little bit about these other games that you have played. Reality.
I have to pull it up unless you give them one by one, and I can
Yeah. So
tell
I
a
can
little bit
go
more
through
background
them.
about them.
I know most of these.
Mhm.
Let's we can talk as little or as much about any of these as you want. So Northgard.
I think
You
what I
had
had in mind, like before you go in, I think what I had in mind for this is was uh, like as a game developer, I try to play a bunch of different games to kind of inspire me, and this will go in different genre. Certain period where like I need something specific, and I go and look for that specific thing, and I can maybe explain a bit what each of these games have contributed to my overall work or like future work that I'm planning.
yeah.
Mhm. That'd be cool.
So you kind of have them broken down into categories here. You have some strategy games. You have Northgard.
Yeah.
That's a game I think I own.
Mhm.
It's kind of well. I'll let you just kind of explain what it does because you can probably do a better job than I can.
Northgard, I kind of like. I think I saw someone I follow on Twitch kind of playing it randomly, and I kind of saw right away that this would be a game that I enjoy a lot. I think I grew up playing games like, well, not I think I grew up playing games like Warcraft 2, StarCraft, Warcraft 3. I was a big fan of those. I love strategy game in some ways. I was a big fan of StarCraft when it came out. I was playing a lot of like as much as custom maps and also 1v1s. And as far as I know, I was kind of good in my group of friends. I remember one time when we were like teenager, we did a LAN party at my place, and we were like what 7 people, and we ended up doing a 5 versus 2 in StarCraft. Uh,
Mhm.
5 of my friends versus me, and like just to make sure it wasn't completely unbalanced, some other player uh, that wasn't too familiar with the game, and I ended up like being able to beat them all like within 20-25 minutes. So it
Wait, it
was,
was 5 players against just you?
and one other guy, so 5 versus 2.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I was at that level of skill. I don't say that I'm like very good, like enough to play any type of esport, but like compared to all of my friends, I
Yeah.
was really into that
Mhm.
type of game. I played a lot of that game, and same for Warcraft 3, and I think I played quite a bit when it came out as well. But ever since Warcraft 3, well, a little bit of StarCraft 2 as well, I guess, when it came out, I didn't really find a lot of strategy game that I was really enjoying. And Northgard was kind of a simplified type of like RTS where you still have a bit of micromanagement to do, but it's more like controlling territories and really investing into building your town over time. And there was quite a nice campaign as well. So I think when I got that game, I started playing, and even though I'm a game developer, I almost never play games. Sad as this
Mhm.
sounds. So it's very rare that I will find a game where I can play more than 1 hour, 2 hour at a time. And
Mhm.
this one I was just hooked. Like I would play for like 3-4 hours in a row, and it was kind of a nice experience.
It kind of the art style anyway kind of looks a little bit like Civ. Is it anything like
Yeah,
Civ?
not well in some ways, especially if you play like the later. Well, if you play online, which I haven't done, I think you can
Mhm.
win by like technology. So if you research something specific, you will win, for example, or if you build a wonder, or if you go and conquer a specific place. I think there's multiple win conditions. So in that sense, there's the civilization. You also expand your territory by capturing like in a way like hexagons, so like some sort of territories. Each of them will, let's say, allow you to get more wood or get more iron. So you have to choose which territory you will conquer first.
Mhm.
And the more you conquer, the more it costs you to actually conquer them. So it's almost like doubling every time. So at first it will cost you like 10 food to conquer the next territory. Then it will cost you 20. Then it will cost you 40. Then it will cost you 80. So it really increases like exponentially at that point. So you really have to make a decision of where you're going
But
to go next.
it's real time strategy, not turn based, right?
Yeah, it's more real time in that case. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's a
Uh,
cool looking game. I own it. I don't know how I own it. I think I got it in a Humble Bundle or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
most likely, because this is how I got it. So.
yeah,
Hmm.
and it's been on my list of games to play for a while. I still want to check it out at some point. Same thing with the next game you've got listed on here, Surviving Mars. I really,
This
really want to get
was
into that at some point.
so I know I said like I don't usually play games a lot, and Northgard was kind of an exception, but Surviving Mars was just on another level.
Yeah.
I think when I discovered the game, I was playing like 8-9 hours in a row, like nonstop. I was like, oh, I didn't
Damn.
have lunch. Oh, I didn't eat. I was just like completely into the game, and I played like for days and days, like nonstop. I think I was like, for me, abusing is like 2 weeks where I was playing 12 hours a day. This was pretty much what I did with that game. Was something you just get into it, and it's slow pace. So this is less like strategy in some ways and more like city building
Yeah.
survival,
Hmm.
where you try to create a colony on Mars, and you have uh, little story elements that can cause let's say it will be nighttime, so like everything on Mars gets super cold, and there will be like sandstorms, so all of your solar system will, like solar panels, will no longer work because they cannot reach the sun anymore. So that causes like a bunch of chain reaction throughout all of your colonies. So you need to kind of plan against all the scenarios. And but at the same time, even though there's a bit of stress, there's also like something very soothing about playing that game. It's like it just goes. You play, the music is very calming, and you just build small things and like over time, and you just patiently wait for every part, because you're just seeing that your next colony that you're planning to build in this corner of the map is going to be amazing. You can already visualize it, but you need to like pretty much play for 3 hours to get there.
That's
uh,
exactly the feeling that I get when I play Anno. Have you ever played any of the Anno games?
I haven't played, I don't know.
Don't, because if you got addicted to Surviving Mars, we may never see you again. Yeah, they're very, very addicting, and it has some very light real-time strategy stuff in it, but it's mostly just
Mhm.
about building up your city, um, and your you have like 4 different stages usually that you go through. So,
Mhm.
and then like within those 4 different stages, like you have 3 different types of people. Like you have scientists, or I'm speaking mostly of 2070 because that's the main one that I played. But you have like
Hmm.
scientists, you have like workers, and you have like I can't remember what the other one is, but just I don't know. I lost a lot of hours to that game.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And it's very much like you say. You'll just be playing it and you'll be like, "Oh wow, I've been playing this for 12 hours and haven't eaten anything." Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
and
I
one
love
thing I
those kinds
really
of games.
what I like about Surviving Mars is like all the this like sci-fi, like the space exploration type of atmosphere. It felt like when you run out of a resource, you can get some from Earth, but it takes a while before you get it. So
Oh,
like
interesting.
you really have to
Hmm.
take decision as to what am I going to do next, or like sometimes it's like, oh, I'm really like struggling, I need to order food from Earth, but then you realize that like half of your people is going to die if you don't. and, and I think the more I was playing, the more ambition I was, so like overbuilding things and really not planning in a proper way, and I was always kind of reacting. So even though most of the time it was very like soothing and calm, sometimes it was just hell, and I was like just building one thing here, pausing the game because you can pause it and like fast forward it,
Mhm.
and like always micro planning what's gonna do, like what's gonna happen next, so that none of my people would die. Like I would have like, let's say, 1,000 people on Mars, but I had no more electricity, and I would not have any for like 5 days.
Oh,
Like stressful in some way, but I think most of the time I was managing to survive. I think there was only one time where maybe I lost like 100 people. How bad can it be, right?
It's only 100 people.
Only 100 people.
is it one of those kinds of games where you start over a bunch of times, or I don't know? Maybe people are not like this, but when I was playing Anno, I would start playing the game and then I would realize like, oh wow, I could have done that way better, and so I would just restart and then get a little bit farther past that and I'd be like, oh wow, now I realize how I should have set up these fields or something like that. Did you ever restart this game, or did you just like go all the way through?
No, I think I was just committing to what I was doing. And the reason why I was committing is I know there was different scenarios, so there's multiple stories that you can play through. So I was like, I'll just do this. And like the first time I played, I probably built the weird, like worst colonies ever because I didn't know what I was doing at all. So I was just going along and then realizing I made a lot of mistakes. But knowing that the mission would end eventually and I could restart from scratch, then I had like, better planning for the next time and I could properly build everything that I had in mind. And so I didn't really restart too much, except at the end I think I was starting to become too ambitious with my beginnings. I think the first time I had people on Mars like on day 20, 25. But when I was playing at the end, I was committed to having people come on day 5. Like I had everything already built up and already set up, and I knew the houses would be built by the time they would arrive on Mars. So I was like kind of taking those risks, but normally they were not paying off. So I had to restart.
Wargroove. Wargroove is another game that it's been on my list, but I haven't played any of it. I've heard really good things about it though.
I didn't play too much about it, but so last year for my birthday, my wife got me a Switch. And
nice present.
Yeah, it was a very nice present. Anyway, I ended up playing Zelda when I got it, but I ended up wanting to play Wargroove. I had it on my list for a little while, and this was just another, I feel like this year I wanted to get more strategy game in my blood. So I just got that on the Switch, and I felt like it was a very nice portable thing. And for some reason, pixel art is better on Switch for no exact reason, but I was like, if I have to buy a pixel art game, I would buy it on the Switch.
Yeah.
And this was also a very nice one, like very, in some ways simplified, but there was enough meta game into it. Like it was really evolving, and the more you go into it, the more it introduces new units that you can build, and they have their specific strengths and weaknesses. But I also ended up not playing too much of it. At some point, I just forgot that I own it. But I remember yesterday that I have it. So.
Do you play your Switch mostly in handheld mode or docked?
I haven't played too much with it, to be fair. So I think when I do use it, it's because I'm on the plane or somewhere else. But when I initially got it, I was playing on the TV. So I was playing it docked. Like Zelda, I mostly played it on the TV.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, same for me. How do you like the Switch?
I really love the concept, and like that's why whenever I go on a plane travel, I will bring it with me. I think it makes this type of traveling a lot better. But like the sad thing is I don't play enough games, so usually if I play a game, I'll just play on my PC.
Yeah.
I have a hard time committing to buying something on console because I will mostly play games when I'm at home. So I think what I will usually do is if I know I'm traveling, I will buy a new game for the Switch and go with it.
Okay.
And that's how I kind of build my library on there.
You usually buy digital or
digital
physical?
For sure. I'm a big digital type of person because then you don't need to really plan for it. You will always be able to get the game. So.
How do you feel about the Joy-Cons? Like them, hate them, meh?
I really like the Joy-Cons because so one thing I really like about the Switch is that when you buy it, you already have 2 controllers. And that's pretty beautiful because, well, actually, that's not true anymore, but I own like 4 Xbox controllers, so I could do more party games. But I love that wherever you go, you always have the ability to play with other people.
Yeah.
The controller itself is not amazing, but I mean, I own the Wii and I owned like GameCube and I own like Nintendo 64. They were not amazing controllers.
So you're used to bad controllers.
But they still work and they do the job. So
yeah,
they're good. So I'm kind of a fan of the concept. It's a very good concept. And
yeah, I really love the concept. I just wish that it was more powerful.
Mhm.
And I hate
Mm.
the Joy-Cons. I mainly the right Joy-Con because the thumbstick. I wish the thumbsticks were just at the top on the same on both of them. I hate the right one because I always feel like, is it the right one or the left? Whichever
But
one you have to
there's
like move your thumb
it's
down.
exactly the same as the Xbox controller, right?
Yeah, I mean the Xbox controller I don't mind too much because it's bigger and bulky, but
Yeah.
when it's and the other thing with the Xbox controller is, you know, my hands they kind of go out a little bit. With the
Mhm.
Switch, it's like you're holding it straight like this, and you can't
Yeah.
really bend your hands more.
Mm.
So I feel like I don't know. I feel like if they were angled a little bit or something like that, it would make it better. I don't know.
I
I
guess
feel
it's
like they're
just a
way too
limitation
small
of
too.
of having like two controllers in one console is the reason why it had to be that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, we could probably talk about the Switch for hours, but
Could.
let's move on. Let's see. I don't know this game. She Remembered Caterpillars.
Yeah, this was something I also got, I think, in the Humble Bundle. And as funny as it is, and I'm making a puzzle, but I'm not the biggest fan of puzzle game.
Yeah.
I think I told Hal already before. Uh, so it's very rare that we'll find a puzzle game and I will play through the whole thing. But this one was a very, very interesting one, and I thought the art style was very cute. It was very colorful. Uh, I think that's why I kind of got like attached to it, and it was very unique in the way it was presenting puzzles. It's a mechanic that I've never seen before, where you pretty much have those little caterpillars that you need to bring into a specific end spot. And
Mhm.
these caterpillars will have different colors. So you have red, blue, and green, I'm assuming, or yellow. Red, green, yeah, I think it's yellow. And
Yeah.
then the more you go into the game, you have pretty much two obstacles. There will be bridges, and there will be, I guess, fences. Yeah, so that you're putting the gameplay there.
Yeah.
So what will happen is if you are the blue, you can go on the blue bridges, but you will not be able to get through the blue walls because they will block you because they don't like blue people. And so what you can do also is then you can combine both of them and create, let's say in this case we saw purple. So the purple will be able to cross the bridge, but it will not be able to cross the wall because it contains blue. So it's always like a mix of like combining colors or like separating the colors to be able to go through different obstacles.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And both of them pretty much act as in a programming language like an and or gate. So
Okay.
sometimes you'll need to have both to get through. Sometimes you'll need only one or the two to be able to get through, and sometimes if you have any of them, they will not let you through. So it's kind of a nice concept in that sense.
Were you playing this on the Switch
And
also, or just PC?
this was on PC, and
Okay.
I don't know if it's on the Switch. I feel like it should be, but
Seems like a
no,
good
I played
game
this
for
one
the
on PC.
Switch.
And there was a bit of story, but I wasn't too much into it. Like I felt like it was too complex, and every time I was getting back to it, I kind of forgot what it was about.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But that was a very interesting puzzle game that I was able to play throughout the whole thing, which I don't usually do.
Oh, you finished it.
Yeah, I completely finished it.
Was
Like
it
I was not able to put it down once I started.
nice? Was it pretty short? Like how long was it?
Uh, I don't think it was super long. I tend to be like faster than average on most games that I play.
Hmm.
I also tend somehow to, while I'm making a puzzle game, so I tend to be able to read puzzles faster than most people. So I
Yeah.
think I was able to beat it quite fast.
Okay.
I guess I could see on Steam. Let me see. It says I played 3 hours, so
Oh,
probably
okay.
around
Mhm.
4.
Cool.
Probably like 4 to 5 hours for the normal
Yeah.
non developer who doesn't make puzzle games. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite puzzle game?
Uh, favorite puzzle game. I mean, that game is probably one of the best one I played, to be fair.
Yeah.
Uh, I like the puzzle games that are also kind of short because I tend to get discouraged very quickly when the game gets too hard and
Yeah.
doesn't really give me a reward.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, like Portal was a very great game, but I think this is on a whole completely different level because it has a lot more storytelling. And so one of the reasons why you will want to play is also because you want to hear what's going to happen next in the story. Like, well, as the She Remembered Caterpillars, it's strictly puzzles. Like, there's a bit of a story, but you could completely forget about it.
Yeah.
What else did I play? I mean, I want to say that The Witness was also a big inspiration for my game just by the way it was designed, where the game doesn't tell you what the puzzle mechanics are, you just have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
So I think this was a great philosophy that I got from The Witness. So
Yeah, and I
do see
just
The
want to
Witness as a
say
very-
you did a much better job at slowly introducing the
Oh.
mechanics than the Witness did. I
That's
didn't like the
interesting.
Witness
Okay.
at all. It could be because I don't know. I felt like the Witness was maybe a little too open world, and
Mhm.
I would
There
go
was
to
no
some.
direction.
Yeah, I would go to some places. Like the very first was very good at how it introduced the mechanics to you,
Mhm.
but then when it like really opens up, like right at the start, I just
Mhm.
like kind of went off and just started exploring, and I was coming up to puzzles that like I had no idea what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, I guess you can right away end up at the end game area and
Yeah,
not understand any of the puzzle, but the game doesn't tell you you shouldn't be there.
yeah. I always want to go back to the Witness, but I feel like I would have to use a guide or something to get through it
I
because,
haven't finished it either.
yeah, it's
Like I
it's
said, I
just
don't like puzzle games, so
the lore in that game is interesting to me. I've seen like some really weird stuff about it. But anyway, moving on. Dragon Age Origins. Vermont will be excited about this.
oh, Vermont's gonna be excited. So I think what else do I have on that line? I probably have
You have
Dishonored
Dragon Age
2
Origins, Dishonored 2, and Soma.
and Soma. So I think this is kind of a group of games that I'm kind of looking from afar to start planning for my next game. So to give a
Ooh,
bit more
interesting.
background to the people that are listening that might not know me as much, I'm wrapping up the development of my first game, which is a puzzle game. But I'm already starting to think about what I'm going to do next. And I'm still not quite sure in which direction I'm going to go, but I know like Dragon Age Origins or The Witcher are the type of game that I would want to eventually get to doing. But
Mm-hmm.
I understand right now I'm a solo dev
Mhm.
or mostly solo. Building those type of games require a lot of budget. They require a lot of people. They require a lot of experience, which realistically I don't have. So even if I wanted to do a game like that, I would obviously fail because I would not be able to make it. So right now I'm kind of trying to figure out what my next stepping stone would be to be able to get to doing some sort of game like that. And when I look at, for example, Dragon Age, I played recently, and I don't think the game mechanic or the way that the game is played aged pretty well. The controls are a bit clunky in certain
Yeah.
places,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
but the overall idea of the game is great. Like the way that they structure the classes and the party, I really enjoy that type of um, synergy between the characters and how they work together. I think in some ways Mass Effect was very similar to me too. I loved that you could have a squad that was following you, and each of the different squad members had different interaction between each other, so you could kind of replay the game over and over again. So I replayed a bit of Dragon Age Origins just to get the creativity juices starting to like come into me.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I think ideally I'd want to make a game like that, but I think it would be a bit too ambitious at this point. The second game I put on there was Dishonored
Yeah,
on the
Dishonored 2.
list.
Yeah.
And this is why I kind of replayed Dishonored to kind of like. I think it's more like the world building of Dishonored that I'm interested in, and not like the stealth mechanics or like horror imagery, the way that the game is played, but more like how rich the environments is. I think I would want to use that type of like storytelling in a way to be able to say that like in the next game, everywhere you go, there's a bit more, like there's really a reason for everything to be there. I think one of the biggest issue I had with my first game, because I didn't know how to make games, is that I spread my story a bit too wide, and I was not able to cover every different angles. I think I was able to salvage that in some ways by the end, but I think it took me a long time to realize that a game doesn't get better by adding more content, but more by making the content that's already there richer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at the beginning, I planned that there would be a desert area, and then there would be like a cave, and there would be a forest, and there would be a spaceship, and it was like the more environments I add, the more interesting the game will be. But in the end, it just gets more like, why is this here? Why am I doing this? So I had to cut a lot of the content in the end. So I think a better philosophy is to really look at what Dishonored has done and say, okay, I'm going to build this room here. Why does it exist? Who lived here? What's their purpose for the overall society? What's their job? What are they contributing? Why the fact that they disappeared is causing everyone to go crazy, etc., etc. Like really go into adding more detail into the environments and really having a purpose for everything. Not sure if I'm going to finish it, but so far I've enjoyed it. I haven't played it since like a week or two already, so
Have you gotten
normally play games.
Have you gotten to the
just get a bit of creativity?
Right. Have you gotten to the level where you go to that mansion where you have the lenses and like you look back in time?
I've played it when I played the game the first time, but no, I'm not there yet in my second playthrough.
Man. That is one of the
That's a really
coolest
cool level.
mechanics and just levels, I think, in that game.
Yeah,
that in the Clockwork Mansion. It's really, really cool.
That and the Clockwork are two very unique, but also so well put on levels together. Like it's impressive that they were able to do that in a way.
It reminds me of the Titanfall 2 level. Did you play Titanfall 2?
I haven't.
You played it, didn't you, Squash?
Yeah.
You remember the part where you go back in time, like you can swap back and forth?
I think so.
It was like
I definitely know it better from Dishonored 2.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Dishonored 2, actually. Actually, I think Titanfall 2 came out first, didn't it?
When
did Titanfall 2 come out?
Came out in between Battlefield 1 and the COD game of that year. And the Dishonored 2, I want to say, was 2016.
Oh, wow. Titanfall 2 came out October 28th, 2016.
Yeah.
Dishonored 2 came out November 11th, 2016. Okay, well,
yeah.
They didn't copy each other because...
No, they didn't copy each other.
But I thought it was interesting just how similar those two levels were. All right, talk to me about the other ones you have on here. Reality, you have Soma on here. That's one of my favorite horror games. Not just horror games, but games of all time.
It's a very great game, and I only played it recently as well, even though it's kind of old. I heard so many people tell me about, you should play it, or like that it was a great game, but I never really enjoyed it. One other thing about me, and this is going to be a recurrent theme, I love horror games, but I hate playing them or even watching them. I love what horror games can do, what they can bring, what type of story they can bring forward, but I absolutely hate any type of like jump scares or anything that, like, I hate being scared in a way.
Yeah,
I can relate to
that. But I just love like the richness of it. Like I liked Soma so much. I liked Amnesia when it came out. I love also Silent Hill 2, and I think I put it a bit lower in the podcast rundown, but one of the things that inspired the story for my first game is Silent Hill 2, the way that it was designed. So one thing that I do want to keep doing with my games is really go into a darker type of area where we're really exploring some spooky stuff. So I really want to go into like...
Soma just has one of the interesting. Well, I mean, the story itself is interesting, but just getting into it and just thinking about, like, what if this actually would happen? The idea behind Soma, if people haven't ever played, is that, I mean, this is a tiny bit of a spoiler if you haven't played it or if you haven't seen it or know nothing about it, but if you don't know anything about it at this point and haven't seen it, you probably aren't going to play it.
Mhm.
But so the idea is that there's a guy with brain damage that goes into a doctor to kind of have like some experiments done, and long story short, he gets his consciousness transferred into a computer, which he then wakes up, like, what is it, 100 years later or something like that.
It's even more than that, yeah.
200 years, something like that. He wakes up 200 years later, thinking that he's still himself in a completely new environment underwater. But it turns out that his consciousness has actually been transferred into a robot. And, it's so realistic to him that he doesn't even realize it at first. And he has to kind of deal with that and accept that. It's a really, really, really interesting, thought-provoking story.
There's so many like additional layers that get added to that just basic, and like as much as it is a spoiler, this is something you figure out within the first hour or two. So like whatever you said, so it's not the biggest spoilers. There's still so much richness into that game that like just like when you figure it out, it's pretty cool. And yeah, like you said, it's thought provoking. It really makes you question a lot of things about what you know about like your ethics, what you would do in certain like similar situation. So the reason why I put all those three games on the same line, and that's kind of discussing what I'm going to do next, but not really because it's still very, very early bird. But I'd love to combine like the three different things that I discuss about each of those games. And I don't know how possible it is. It really, at this point, there's nothing that's been built, but I'm kind of, starting to think about what would happen next as a stepping stone to getting to a bit more ambitious games.
So you're obviously making an RPG with horror elements in dense environments.
Well, that's the goal, yeah.
So yeah, that's the goal. The thing is, this is like really ambitious by itself. So I have to like pick and choose literal aspects of each of them and try to combine them into something that would still be fun to play and interesting, but that will not take a team of 200 people to manage during by working 4 years and doing crunch.
That's really interesting though, to hear about like the kind of games that you play to get inspiration from, and not necessarily like you're playing Dishonored 2, but that doesn't mean that you're going to make a game like Dishonored 2. Like you're just pulling little elements and things out of it. I think that's really interesting. Also super exciting because all of those games are fantastic games. And I think
gotta aim high. We have to go for the highest point, like
I think speaking on the aspect of playing like popular games like Dishonored, but for the smaller kind of small details, it's because I'm studying games design in college, so I'm kind of going through the motions of learning things, and we kind of have to do research for all the games that we're making, and we have to show where we're drawing inspiration from and all that kind of stuff. And so beginning to play games, not specifically Dishonored, but big games like it, for the specific details is definitely weird to get used to and weird to think about. But in practice, it's actually really useful. And it can be pretty inspiring because it can spark a lot of your own ideas and stuff for the games you plan to make yourself.
I think like now that I'm a very experienced of 3 years game developer, when I started making my first game, I really started by copying a game, just doing a clone of it because I'm like, this is going to be easy. I don't need to even think. I just need to reproduce it.
Yeah.
And then it was more a matter of fact of like, okay, now how can I change that game to become more unique, to become more interesting, and to become more personal in a way? Like, how can I make this my own game?
Hmm.
So what I ended up doing is pulling inspirations from a few other games and like really take one small aspect and really feed that into the game and see what it creates.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's very similar to me with photography. How I started doing photography, I looked at other people's photographs and I basically just tried to copy that. I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I like that. I want to do that. And then once you learn how to do that, then you try to kind of start to make it your own more and shape it and make it more unique and more unique to you. So I think that's really interesting how similar that is. Yeah, and then you also have Final Fantasy 14 on here and Albion Online, which
Yeah.
are both MMOs, of course.
Yeah. I forget I put Albion Online. This is a game that I played to at the beginning of the year. And why I put it on the same name as FF14 is these games just have like so much things you can do that you can just, in a way, like FF14 has a great story, but there's also a lot of side things you can do and invest time and level up different classes. And sometimes I just get lost into that idea of like almost limitless type of gameplay that you can play forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I was doing in Albion Online, which is a PvP type of game, but what I was mostly doing is just harvesting resources and crafting weapons.
Yeah.
And I was doing that for many, many hours because it kind of helps me forget about like real life stress and just kind of like zone out for a moment while I'm listening to music and just aimlessly clicking around in a video game.
Right.
Very fun at points.
Very cool. Let's see. I think let's move into kind of another category.
Mm-hmm.
Squash, I forgot as usual. I always forget to move our movies and TV discussion to right after the games. But anything you want to throw out that you've been watching?
I don't think I've watched anything this last week, but I'm looking forward to watching quite a few things still. Like American Psycho is on my list, Inception, and The Irishman. I kind of all want to watch those within the next week if I
Oh,
can.
I want to see The Irishman too.
Yeah. Trouble is, it's like 3.5 hours long, so
Oh dear, I
kind of
didn't
almost
realize it
need to
was that
dedicate
long.
a day to it.
Yeah.
It's big.
Reality, are you? Do you watch much TV or movies or anything?
I don't watch a lot of like either movies or TV. We did end up watching The Witcher TV series because I did enjoy the game and everyone was talking about it. So we kind of said let's just watch it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I really enjoyed it, but I just don't usually am able to like really enjoy a TV series or a movie. I think the first day we watched 3 episodes back to back, so it was about 3 hours. But man, I was destroyed after that. Just I
What
was like not able to focus anymore, and I just want to like do something else.
What were your overall thoughts about the Witcher?
I think they did a very great job. I think the overall quality of everything was super nice. The world building was great. They reproduced a lot of the like things that you know from the game, so I think they did a very good job. There's a few things probably to improve over time. I think personally, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I feel like the last episode was a bit dry in some way, especially the way that like the last scene was. I felt like it was a bit too rushed and it was kind of not making sense. But I mean, it's not a big deal breaker.
I still haven't.
One thing, the one thing that I thought it was kind of funny is that they use a lot of blur effects for the backgrounds. So I think most of my mind was just focusing on like the creative direction that they had versus what the actual TV series is.
Yeah. Yeah, I still haven't finished it. I'm very mixed on it. I love the games. I mean, The Witcher 1 is one of my favorite games of all time, and 2 and 3 are definitely up there as well. And of course, these don't really follow the games. These are all based off the books. So it's quite a bit different. Although I feel like Henry Cavill is literally trying to portray like Witcher 3 Geralt. as far as looks and just tone and everything like that, which I think he does a really good job with.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't really like how much it jumps around, and it's a bit confusing and hard to follow.
Yeah, the time jumps were a bit hard to follow, and I have a hard time following stories as well. So
yeah, but I mean, overall, I think it was pretty good, and of course, like I said, I haven't finished it, so I don't feel like I can really comment on it until I finish it, and I will finish it. And I mean, they're already making a season 2, so I think that's a good indication that it did pretty well, and they're confident in it. But yeah, I haven't watched a whole lot either. Bit of Breaking Bad. I did watch Inception, but I want to talk about that later when Squash has watched Inception. Yeah. So let's move back to games. Let's just talk about your game, Reality. So, and just a little bit about game development in general. So for anybody that doesn't know, Reality's been working on this game for over 3 years now, right? Almost 3.5 years.
Yeah, almost 3.5.
The game is, there you go, perfect. Called Crew 167, A Grand Block Odyssey.
I tend to just say Crew 167 lately.
I was wondering
kept the old name, but
I was wondering. So I want to talk about the name. What is like, where? How did you pick 167, Crew 167?
I wish there was like some super nice story behind that.
Did you try 166 names before and just ended up on 167?
No. So, I mean, initially the game was called Project Earth. That's how it was called in my PC. I was really told very quickly that this was not a great name. Because I think I showed it like the first month. People were like, well, people will never be able to find that on the internet, and it's not that interesting. So I ended up finding another great name called the Grand Block Odyssey, because it was a game about blocks, and we were going through an odyssey. So I thought Grand Block Odyssey was very smart. So I ended up rolling that name for about 2 years, and maybe almost 2.5 years. Yeah. 2.5 years. No, almost 3 years actually. So I rocked that name for 3 years. I showed it at local events. I had some sort of online presence with it. The store page on Steam was called the Grand Block Odyssey. So I was kind of stuck with it, but I didn't feel like it was that interesting of a name. And a lot of people were telling me this was a bad name for it. So I ended up like starting to look out for something. And Crew 167 was the number that I randomly assigned to my character in one of the beginning cutscene. So to give a short synopsis of the game, you're in a spaceship, you're traveling to go and visit a distant planet. You're all alone in a spaceship, and then you end up having some sort of hallucination that presents themselves in form of blocks. And one of the very first cutscene is that you walk into the spaceship AI room, and you ask her like, something is wrong with me, I'm seeing blocks, and that spaceship AI just welcomes you, calling you, hi Crew 167. And this was just a random name that I came up with probably in the first 6 months, but there's no real reasoning behind it, because back then I didn't really know what I was doing, so I probably didn't put too much thought into it. I just thought mashing some random numbers would make sense, and that's how Crew 167 became.
So
but then I started rolling that name like as the domain name. Like, this is good enough. It's kind of mysterious, I think, which is what the story is all about, and it's about this character that doesn't really have an identity, so having a number assigned to him is perfect.
It is I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh, I was going to say, it's really interesting to think about names for games, because you're right, like having a generic name is really bad sometimes when a game is called like Gun or something like that, you know, because when you try to Google that, or just when, you know, you try to find that, it's very hard to find. So I think it is cool that you did come up with something unique and can
Hmm.
easily be found. And I know how hard it is, like when you're trying to register URLs and things like that and get social media and all that stuff for the same name. It's like you almost never really get exactly what you want, but you kind of just have to settle with something. But I think it's a
Hmm.
cool name. So talk to me a little.
I bought a bunch of domain names when I got that
Did you?
name before.
Tell us a little bit about the inspiration. You told us a little bit, but with like Silent Hill 2 and things like that. But what
Hmm.
are some of the other inspirations that you had for it?
Well, the very first inspiration, I'm gonna try to see if I still have a video of like the very, very early gameplay, but I don't think so. I have a bunch of videos unlisted on YouTube. That's how I pretty much run my business. I can always go back and pull up something. But the main inspiration when I started to make the game, and I was not that experienced with video games, was a game called Goof Troop that's on the Super Nintendo. Uh, it was some very old school co-op game made by, well, using the Goofy IP from Disney.
Hmm.
And it was this game where you're pretty much fighting off pirates with your son. I don't remember what Goofy's son's name is. And this game had like those kind of similar views that I have for my game, where every room has a fixed camera and you just walk into it and you go from room to room.
Oh, this is
Have you
very
ever tried?
interesting. I'm just
Yeah.
pulling up a video and I can definitely kind of see
Oh, there you go.
the inspiration
Yeah,
from
there
it
you go.
now.
So this is what you see there is the actual puzzle where you push blocks on
Hmm.
switches. But the game had a lot of like fighting elements where you were throwing crates at enemies and kind of fighting your way through it and finding keys to unlock the next door and etc. And when I initially prototyped the game, I was actually recreating this game completely. Like I tried to do a bit of gameplay where you would be throwing boxes at enemies and like kind of fight your way through it. Let me see if I have a video of it. I guess I can show that, so I'll send to you on Discord.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not too loud. If you skip around, let's say 33 seconds. It's pretty loud, so you better mute it.
I got it muted, yeah.
So see, it was called Project Earth. I'm not lying, guys. So yeah, this was this like very old school. Like now there was some mummies. You could kick the blocks on them to kill them. They could throw boxes at you. So it was really recreating what that game was. But very early on, when I was playtesting it and starting to show it to people, people were like kind of, well, one, they were bashing how weird the game looked and how slow it was and how like the animations were not that great. But that, to me, that was fine. Like it's actually something that makes sense when you start to prototype a game. So I'm not any type of ashamed of it.
Mhm.
But what was happening is that people were saying like, oh, I like the puzzle aspect of it because I thought the puzzle were pretty fun, but like the fighting was pretty broken and not that enjoyable. So what I was thinking is I can either spend more time on the combat to make it a bit more interesting, or I can just completely kill it and focus on the puzzle aspect of it, which is what I ended up doing. As a solo dev, sometimes you just have to take decisions like I have a limited amount of time, so I should focus the time on what matters the most. And when I was playing that game as a kid, Goof Troop, I really enjoyed the puzzles in that game, but there was so little. I think the game probably has like 10 or 12 puzzles in the end. There's not that many. So I always thought I wanted more of those puzzles, but there was no game that actually did that. So I decided to just spend more time onto the puzzle aspect of it. And then that kind of unlocked, but the game became, because now I took that simple mechanic of pushing blocks, but then I added so many different flavors to it.
Mm-hmm.
More than the one we see here. So this was one that was there very early on where you had a limited amount of pushes. But because I had limited myself to say, I'm going to do a block pushing game, I was able to, think of more different ways I could make that mechanic interesting.
Very cool.
I gotta say, this is awesome to watch. Just
Yeah,
even like I'm guessing it's made in Unreal, like based on some of the textures you're using. Like I
Yeah, this
recognize
is
them from.
mostly the default Unreal Engine textures.
Yeah, yeah. It's really cool to see how it's come from this to what it is now. Even if it did take like 3.5 years.
3.5 years, yeah. So now the next thing that happened is when I guess we can go down that rabbit hole. I'll find a video of the next prototype that I built. Let's see, do I have that? I have it, but there's my face on it. But it's okay. You showed your face earlier, so let me show my face. So actually, when I started making this game, I was also streaming on Twitch the development of the game.
Oh, cool.
That's cool.
So this is part 2. So I was like very comfortable in front of the camera and like really talking about like what I had figured out. So like after this was completed, I pretty much decided to do another playtest a month later, but by now only focusing on the puzzle mechanic. But also very early on when I was making this game, I was like, I want to make this puzzle game out because I think it's going to be very simple to make. A puzzle game is something that's relatively easy to program. So I thought it was going to be a perfect first project. And in some ways, it's still true. Like making a puzzle game is much easier than making an RPG.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, I want to have like some cool environments. I want to have something that's in 3D. I want something that's very interesting. So I was kind of testing how would a game that is a blockbuster game work when you add like some more fancy environment. So I started like prototyping. I bought some assets on the Unreal Marketplace to kind of see what it would look like, so I can have a big prototype. So instead of having walls that are made like of square bricks, how the game would look if there were like those bags that you see there, or there's like those triangles that are there. Making sure that one thing that I wanted to test is, are people still able to read the puzzles and still able to solve them, or is that really gonna impact the way that they see the solutions for each of the puzzles? This was a critical thing to test very early on, because if like one of the second environment that I have in the game is a forest. So if you cannot see the grid of the block pushing puzzle in a forest, then like the game that I had in mind would just not work out.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably skip a little bit more to see, because I think I was talking more about like the controls, which is very slippery, as you can see. It looks like the character is flying.
I think one of the most interesting things about creating a puzzle game, at least it seems like it would be, is how much playtesting you would need. Because one of my problems with puzzle games has always been the games are so many puzzle games are interesting, but it seems like the developer like programmed it to be a certain way, and unless you know exactly how they programmed it or how to solve that puzzle, then it's not very intuitive. And I think that's one of the things that I like so much about your game is it's very intuitive and just does a very good job at kind of slowly introducing you to the mechanics and kind of teaching you the way of thinking, as opposed to just giving you like a really hard puzzle and you just kind of having to like read the developer's mind on how to solve it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the bigger challenges that I have for this game. And I think that's one aspect that I, in a way, don't like about making a puzzle game, is figuring out how to make a puzzle very easy to understand and like not having to explain. Like one thing that I totally didn't want either is to have big pop-ups of like way to explain you how to how you should solve the puzzle. I want it to be really, you figure it out on your own, and I think I managed to do that. But each of the puzzles take me so much time to actually design. So even though programming a puzzle game, like most of the mechanics that we'll be shipping in the final game, they were programmed in the first month or 2 of development. Like I had everything figured out for the puzzles at that point. But actually spending the time to design each of the puzzles, and now in this case also adding all of the environment that makes, in my opinion, the game a bit more visually appealing and interesting, is the next bigger challenge. And then I ended up in a way, prototyping from there, adding a bit of story.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the story. So tell me just a little bit about like your inspiration for it and what kind of how that kind of developed.
So I think very quickly I kind of figured out I wanted to do something in space, like using the sci-fi, and even my forest, the key art that I have for my game was kind of decided early on because I wanted to see how people were interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no real idea in the story. I just knew we would be in a spaceship. We would eventually get to a forest. And I'm not a writer. I never wrote stories, so it was kind of a an experience for me. And one of the interesting thing about me too is I don't watch TV and I don't watch movies. Name all the bigger classics, and I most likely have never watched them. Like I never watched Lord of the Ring. I never watched The Matrix. I never watched Star Wars. Like all of those big names, I never seen those. So when I came up with my first story, I just started brainstorming all my ideas and adding them to the story and trying to figure out like a basic flow. I hired some consultant that would help me figure out the story, because I wanted to get somebody that has a bit more experience. And he was able to come out with like this list this big of like all the different references that I had like put into my games. Like, oh, this you definitely took that from like this game, and you took this from this game. It's like I haven't seen any of those. So I think in some ways it's interesting that I don't watch any of them, because what I come up with is kind of my own ideas and not something that I might have stolen from, well, not stolen, like got inspired from other places. But it's funny to see that like something that you would think about has already been done probably 100 times. But anyway, so with that, I was like, okay, I need to come up with a story, and I started prototyping, and I did a first draft, got that guy to help me out. I revamped a bit of the story, but I felt like my story didn't really have like a lot of like, I don't think it was that good. Like when I probably, if I was to go back to that draft that I did initially, like the first overall idea was that you are in a spaceship, your planet is dying from global warming. So you would leave your spaceship to go and visit a planet, but then you would find out that the planet was as bad as the one you were coming from. And like the big twist I had was that the planet you were actually coming to was Earth, which is why the game used to be called Project Earth. So it was like, oh, well, you actually came back to where you started, and like, I don't know, it didn't really make sense. It didn't really connect. It was just more like, haha, I told you it was a different planet, but it was actually Earth, which is not, in my opinion, very like exciting when you think about it. But then I started like, I still took that basic idea. Like my game is still about you are in a spaceship, you're trying to visit a distant planet. But one of the games I probably watched way too many YouTube videos about is Silent Hill 2 during that time. It's a game I had played as a teenager, but one, I was probably not as good in English. And back then when I was a teenager, I was not really paying attention to story. I was just more, if there was a text or a cutscene, I would just skip it, and I just wanted the gameplay. But I got back into that game and really like tried to understand what they had done. And for anyone that has played Silent Hill 2 will probably understand what I'm talking about. And without spoiling too much of it, there's so many reasons for how Silent Hill 2 is, in terms of like how the environment is presenting itself, how the voice acting is done. If anyone has ever watched a cutscene of Silent Hill 2, you will think that the voice acting is actually terrible. That's what you think about when you see it the first time. But there's like a super specific reason as to why this voice acting is a bit off.
Interesting.
And then you'll explore the city that is dark and that has a bunch of these monsters, but you don't really understand where they're coming from. And you got this letter from your wife that is dead, that has been dead for 3 years, but you're still trying to chase her and find her somehow. But the more you figure out about the story, the more interesting it gets, and it really has so many different layers. And I kind of took that direction for my game as well. I want to explore a little bit more the mental state that somebody that is on a spaceship to go and visit a distant planet would feel like you're isolated in space. The people you have back home are pretty much suffering. Like they have no more food. Like the planet is like unbearable because the temperatures are going crazy. I don't think I have the physical book. Maybe it was a ebook that I bought, but I bought a book about overpopulation by itself.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of do it very quickly, like overpopulation in a way is you have more people on Earth that the Earth can sustain, which means we burn through resources more faster, which means we create more pollution that pretty much screws up agriculture. So when you run out of food, or like food doesn't grow as much, you need to use more water to make sure that like food can grow in fields because the temperature is getting higher. So you need to use more water, but then you end up running out of water. And what happens when people run out of water? Well, they start fighting each other. So they start killing each other for water because everyone needs water. If somebody doesn't have water for a day, trust me, they would probably attack you to get just a water bottle you have on your belt.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's either that or they die. Like people will survive and go through that. So what happens when everyone starts fighting for the basic necessities? Then society collapses, and it just it just keeps getting worse and worse. This was one of the ideas I had, and one of the inspiration I got for the game. But then I started delving a lot more into like what would be the mental state of your character in that situation, and a lot of it came from how Silent Hill did manage to pull off what they did with Silent Hill 2.
I've got to play Silent Hill too.
Yeah, I have to
gotta
play
do that.
Silent Hill as well.
Yeah. If there's something you need to learn from this, is don't play Crew 167, go play Silent Hill 2. And if you still have time, then maybe play my game.
Yeah, I'll make time for both, for sure.
So,
But you might appreciate my game more after you play Silent
yeah,
Okay.
I think
some
that
ways.
would be definitely interesting to play Silent Hill now. After, I mean, I've played, so I played the first chapter of your game, and
Mhm.
I honestly can't wait to play the rest. I think I kind of want to wait for it to be fully finished because I just
Yeah.
really like to play games, waiting for them to be finished.
When they're done,
Yeah, so that I can just go through the whole thing. And I've told this many times that I typically don't like puzzle games because of the reasons that I've said, because they're just not very intuitive to me, and I just get frustrated with them.
Mhm.
But I honestly loved your game and just going through it, and I thought it just did a really, really good job at teaching the mechanics early on and just kind of slowly
Mhm.
introducing you to things. And the story is interesting too, which is a huge positive.
Yeah, I'm very excited with the result. Like, and I'm the same. Like I keep saying, I can say it today. I don't like puzzle games, so
Yeah,
I'm making a puzzle game that I actually enjoy in a way.
right.
Mhm.
One of the things that I don't normally enjoy with puzzle games is that when you finish a puzzle, the only thing that you get after is a harder puzzle. So how do you keep motivated by like, oh, finally I've done this one, and then you just scroll to the next area, and it's like, oh, this puzzle is even harder. It doesn't seem like there's an end to it. And like, to be fair, there's a lot of people that enjoy those type of games, and there's
Mhm.
like some very niche type of community where people create puzzle game on a tool called Puzzle Script, which is a web version of like some sort of game maker where you can make games that are puzzle where you push blocks.
Mhm.
But there's like a bunch of little communities that just spend time creating their little puzzle games. They just enjoy it so much. And to be fair, what they will create are like puzzles that are just on a whole different level.
Mhm.
Like they will always aim to have only one solution, and the solution is super clever, and it will take time for you to figure it out, but like everything makes sense in a way.
I
While as
guess,
my design approach was to allow alternate solutions once in a while, as long as the overall idea is there and that the solution doesn't seem too cheesy or too obscure,
yeah.
I was fine with it.
The thing I hate in a puzzle game is when you figure out the solution and then you think like, oh wow, I'm really stupid, that was so
Hmm.
easy. But I never really felt like that with yours. I thought like after I
Hmm.
would figure it out, I'd be like, oh, that's really clever, and
Hmm.
it would make me feel good about solving it, not make me feel stupid that I just didn't see it right away. And I think
Yeah,
that's so hard to do. And I think that you did a really, really good job at doing
I
that,
think
accomplishing that.
I think one of the way, and it's even more visible in the first chapter of the game because this one was tested a lot more, is
Yeah.
whenever I would make a puzzle, I would have people play it, and there's a bunch of local events that I have, like that we have here in Montreal. That's why it's a super great place to be, because there's every month I can go and get my game play tested. There's a lot of people in the industry. There's a lot of like also public facing events. So
Hmm.
every month in February there's a event called Montréal Joue, which basically means Montreal Plays.
Hmm.
So a bunch of little indie game developers just go and showcase their game. And normally a lot of those events are very cheap, or they're even free. But they allow us to showcase our game in front of people that might not have a lot of experience. And what I would do is I would watch the people play the game and see what solution they were coming up with.
Hmm.
And for me, it was also very important. I knew what the solution was, but I saw a lot what the people were trying to do.
And just like the way that they
So
were thinking and the way that they were going about things, right?
yeah, and even though everyone is different, there's still, I would say there was always one or two very specific way that every player was trying to solve a specific puzzle. It was always a recurrent theme that I could see, like a pattern between people.
Hmm.
So what I would end up doing most of the time is, oh, this is what people want to do. Let me do a puzzle that would reflect what they're trying to do. So that's how I guess I can manage to make something that feels like people feel like they're smart, but that's just the way that they instinctively try to solve it.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of time to like actually spend time with those puzzles, show them, tweak them a little, see if it became too hard or too easy, and then tweak them again and tweak them again.
It's really cool. Man, I would love to honestly just talk forever about this stuff because I think it's really interesting. But I know
Yeah.
we're running down on time. Is there anything else specifically about your game or just about game development in general that you want to talk about?
Hmm. No, I mean, one is I'm really excited I started working on this project. I don't come from the gaming industry. I was a programmer working in some big corporation making applications for people to run their business, and I was so unmotivated by everything that I was doing on a daily basis. Uh, the main reason why I quit my past job is I actually fell into depression. I was clinically depressed. I had medication that was prescribed to me. And I was like, I can't just keep doing that. And pretty much one of my way to cope with depression was to start making games as a hobby.
Wow.
But now that I'm like working a lot more on it, I'm like just so excited about everything I do, and like I'm just so glad that I made the switch, because then I can hear about like the way I can make people feel about what I'm creating. They're interested about what I'm doing there, and I think in some ways I can use what I experienced to build stories that might be interesting. I can go and delve a lot on a personal level as to how I can put that experience into the story and how I was feeling. So a lot of the things in Crew 167 is very, very personal to me. It's in a way me recovering from the depression from my past job. So it's a very like weird things, and probably to a level that I will never fully explain, but it's something that's really personal to me.
Hmm. That's really, really interesting. Real quickly, I'm curious just about your decision to go in early access. Are
Mhm.
you happy with that? I'm sure that that was not really an easy decision, but are you happy that you did that,
Yeah.
or do you have any regrets, or how are you feeling about that?
Mm. I don't have any regrets. I think if I had to do the decision again, I would still go in early access. I don't think a puzzle game is the perfect game for to go in early access, just because there's a lack of replayability.
Hmm.
I don't think I was able to get any close to any numbers I wanted to reach with that, but that's fine. In some ways, I was not expecting much, but I just don't think it turned out to be fully there. Like I'm adding so much to the game still now that I think I could have just launched it without early access, and it would have given me probably the same result. But
Mm-hmm.
I think overall I'm neutral. I don't think it hurt me. I got good reviews, so I was able to connect on some level with some people. I was able to showcase it a little bit more and get maybe a bit more visibility on it, but I don't think it changed much in the sense that it didn't give me enough revenue to maybe make it worth it in a way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
How it's interesting because I think of a game like Hollow Knight. That game came out, and I feel like nobody knew about that game. Or I mean, like some
Yeah.
people were talking about it when it first came out, and then like it just exploded all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think that indie games can definitely have like a resurgence all of a sudden. But
Oh yeah, for sure.
how do you how are you marketing? I mean, I want to. I'm
40.
stumbling all over the place because I know we only have a few more minutes. And I would love to talk to you
Yeah.
like forever about this stuff. Like Vermont said, we'll just have to have you on again. But like,
So.
do you find that really challenging, just trying to get the word out because there are so many games out there?
Yeah. Let me just turn off. Just give me a second.
Sure, no worries. Oh, hey, it's just me.
It's just you. Did I screw up your setup?
No, it's fine.
No, it's fine. Yeah, the wife is coming home, so I just want to let her sneak in
No
without
worries.
being exposed on camera. So the question was about marketing. Yeah, I mean, this game in a way was a big challenge because I did most of it on my own, and making a game is something that you should do in a team of like 20 people.
Yeah.
So what happened is that I'm always running out of time to do everything that I need to do, and one of the things that I did neglect the most is marketing. Just because I just never truly have time. Like to do marketing properly, I would probably have to do that 40 hours a week, and I would still run out of time to like not have enough time to do everything. So I think up until now, I haven't done enough marketing, and I've not done a proper job at it. But what I ended up realizing is that as an indie dev, like, yes, I would love to have an amazing day one like launch and make sure that like everyone knows about it the day of the launch, and that's what all the big studios will tell you to do, or like even a lot of the indie people will tell you you need to have a good day one launch, and that will feed what you will do after, like how well you will do after. And I still believe that to be true, but at the same time there's some sort of limit to what I can do as a solo dev, so I just kind of accepted the fact that I cannot do that. So I said instead I will just release it and keep doing marketing on a slow pace, and I will have more and more people hear about it, they'll learn about it, and I'll like get my game known over the next 5 years instead of getting it known on day one. And there's like a success story here from Montreal. I don't know if anyone has heard of like Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Yeah, I've heard of that
party game. And I know the devs a lot, and I like interact with them a lot, and they taught me a lot during the years. And they also didn't have an amazing day one launch. Like they were a small team of people, they didn't really know what they were doing, but they just launched it. But throughout the years, they just kept talking more and more about the game. And this game today is quite successful, like for an indie game. Like it's, well, even not for an indie game, it's a very successful game by itself. And they just told me you just need to like get it out there and to keep working on it and keep talking about it, and then eventually it might pick up.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yes, ideally I would have an amazing day one launch, but I'm not able to do that. So let's see what my other options are.
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, the good news is you're still in early access, so you still have the opportunity to kind of launch the full game. So I think that could help a lot. And yeah, I'm excited for you. I think the game is really good, and I'm going to do everything I can to spread the word.
Yeah, I am too, for sure.
Anything else you want to talk about before we let you go?
I don't think so. I think I appreciate you guys inviting me on the podcast. This was a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness!
Thank you for
I feel
coming
like
on.
it
Felt like
just.
2 hours.
I know. I was gonna say
Yeah.
it flew by. I wish we had more time, but like I said, I'd love to have you on again and just talk about some more stuff. And yeah, like I said, we could talk about this stuff forever.
I'm gonna stay there for a while, so yeah, if I can come more often and more frequent places, just let me know. If it's not this game, I'll be able to talk about what's coming up next, and there's a lot of fun thing. I think this was really enjoyable.
Absolutely. Just real quickly, we didn't even have time to get to the news. We'll probably, I mean, there's not a whole lot. There's some stuff that's saying that some of the Sony games are going to be coming to PC. I think that's really cool. Horizon Zero Dawn is the first one that it sounds like may be coming. I think that's very exciting. One of my favorite games. And then there's some bad news. I hate to kind of leave on this, but bunch of delays. Yeah, the biggest one that hurts, I know Squash and myself, is Cyberpunk was delayed to September. That really hurts. And then of course we had the Avengers that was delayed, and Final Fantasy VII was delayed a month. The big story in all of this is just like every game gets delayed now, and it's tough to deal with because it's like I obviously want developers to have as much time as they need to, make the game, and I don't want them to have a ton of crunch, and I don't want them to be stressed out. But at the same time, I hate when games get announced so early and they put a date on it so early, because I don't know, it doesn't get me excited anymore when I see a game and they put a date on it. I just think, oh well, that's going to get delayed now.
Yeah, I think they were kind of early and when they announced the date for Cyberpunk, but
yeah. I don't know. It's tough because I mean, like you even said in the notes here, Reality, like you initially thought that this game that you were working on was going to take what, like a year?
yeah.
And you've been at it for 3.5 years now. So game development is very tough, and it seems like it's just extremely hard to predict when you can be finished. So yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I wish that they would just, I think Capcom does a really good job with this, or they've started to do a really good job with this at waiting. Like with Resident Evil 3, they just announced it kind of a month ago that it's coming out in just a few months. I think that's really cool that they do that. They've done that with the past few games that they've put out, and I think that's working really well for them. Bethesda kind of did that a little bit with Fallout 4 and some other games. So yeah, I wish more publishers would look at that and do that.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. One of the things that I'm kind of thinking is I should just announce the game when I'm actually done working on it, and the only thing that's left working on it is like localization and adding some like very basic things. But I mean, this is what realistically that would happen, but I know people just like to get the game out as soon as it's like done.
Yeah.
Like it feels weird to like sit on a game that's technically done, but for 3 months.
Right. Well, that's the thing with Cyberpunk.
That's the only way you could tell like the game is ready. Otherwise, there could always be something that comes out.
I mean, they said in their statement, like, the game is finished. It is playable from beginning to end, but they just want more time to polish it. And I mean, a game like that is...
It's not finished.
Yeah.
It's a PR move to say, like, this game is finished, but we're polishing it. No, it's not finished.
Oh, you think it's really not finished?
Game development. Polishing is a big aspect of game development, so no, I don't. Like, yes, it's playable, but my game has been playable since month number 2.
Right.
Mean it was ready.
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends on like how you define playable, or how you define a finished game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think I can personally compare in any way to the level that kind of professional game developers can. But even just working on these smaller projects in college and having these like 2 to 3 month deadlines is pretty damn stressful. And I think it's pretty good to learn to create a discipline on how ambitious you can be with these short deadlines, because most of the people on my course want to do these crazy things, but we have such a short time span and not much knowledge on how to do these things that in most cases it's kind of unrealistic, as much as I hate to say it. And it's difficult, like when you're the person going through it, but then it feels like it's easy to be mad at it when someone else is going through it, like in the Cyberpunk case, even though I'm learning to begin that obviously it's a real stressful situation for the devs and the higher ups at CD Projekt Red as well, I expect.
Yeah, for sure. It's probably not a good situation for them. Like, it's very stressful even for the employees, because they know everyone is looking at that game with like expectations through the roof.
Yeah.
I think they were even complaining at some point, like all the devs are like stressed out, and that was like over a year ago, because the expectation is just way too high.
Yeah, it really is insane.
Why did they announce it then? I mean, I get like they announced it way early on, and they kind of had to do that for just from like a business perspective to show that they were working on things. But it got to the point to me to where like I knew that they were working on Cyberpunk, and they could just say like, "Hey, we are working on Cyberpunk. It's coming." But I just wish that they would have, like, this is going to be 3 E3s now that Cyberpunk has been there, and the game is still not out. And I just feel like that's too long. Like, at some point, you just start losing a little bit of the hype around the game. And obviously, that's not what they wanted. Like, they wanted it to be a little bit quicker. But it's just inevitable that just happens with every single game that gets announced more than a year out. It's delayed,
I think Death Stranding was always, showcasing the game, but they truly announced the game only when they knew it was going to be ready.
Yeah.
Which is the proper way to do it. Like, they could have done that stunt with Keanu Reeves at E3 properly without actually naming the date, and everyone would have been super hyped about it.
Absolutely. It just, to me, it just does no good to announce a date unless you are 1,000% sure that you can hit that date, because it just gets people excited, and then it just will inevitably disappoint people when you delay that. And yeah, I mean, people are okay. Like, people trust CD Projekt Red. They maybe a little too much, but everyone, loves this company, and so they're fine. They're saying, take as much time as you need, but still, wouldn't you rather them take all the time they need, but then just announce the date when they are sure that they can hit it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, well.
I hate to kind of leave on a sad note, but Reality, thank you so much for joining us. Please let everyone know where we can find you. If you want to, feel free to spam your links in chat.
Sure.
Please go and follow Reality and check out his game. It's really, really cool. If you like puzzle games, even if you don't like puzzle games, I'm not a huge puzzle game fan, but I really, really enjoyed this game. And I thank you so much for joining us.
A side note, my Facebook page has 99 likes, so if you want to be the 100th subscriber,
man, all right, we got to get you to 100.
That's some real incentive.
But yeah, so basically the way that I structure my thing is, if you want to look for my YouTube channel, you type in youtube.crew167.com. It will bring you there. If you want to find my Twitter, you do twitter.crew167.com. You get there.
Awesome.
Yeah,
very consistent.
Everything is like that. So the Steam is that way too.
Nice.
So thank you so much for having me. It was a bunch of fun, like I said earlier.
Absolutely.
It's getting very dark, especially above me. I cannot see.
I know.
Anything.
Same for me. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to let you go. I know it's getting late. And
No
thank
worries.
you all in chat. Thank you guys for being here. This was a lot of fun. So we will say goodbye. And thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
You too.